hours or 72 hours, however long it takes. If it's around the clock, let's do it, because the things that are on the table today are not acceptable to the players.
Do you think it's really doable, realistically?
Well, I didn't think that way in '81, but there's different signs as of today that we can hopefully have this thing ironed out. But the signs in '81 were completely different.
All right. Tony La Russa, a manager is always a man in the middle. You're paid by management, but you're closest with the players on the bench. So what is your gut feeling as a guy in the middle of all this?
Well, you feel kind of in the middle, Lynn, but I've always felt like, a corny kind of thing. The game is very special. The fans are the reason you're here, and I just feel there's smart people on both sides, guys like Don Bailey that you respect. You know they're honorable. They'll figure out something that can work for both sides and will keep the game going. I just don't think there's any way that there should be a strike, because the game is bigger than any of us.
Where will you be on Tuesday?
We're supposed to open up against Boston in Comiskey Park.
I hope you're there. Don, how do you respond to the fans and the latest fan poll sides with the owners? The fans feel you're making enough money, there's no reason to strike. How do you respond to those fans?
Well, the fans are very important to our game, there's no doubt about it. But if the fans were sitting in on some of the negotiations, I don't think they would accept some of the things that are going on. And it's taken us about 7 months to really get a proposal, so that's the thing that we're looking at right now.
Where will you be on Tuesday?
Hopefully I'm in Yankee Stadium playing Cleveland.
All right, so hopefully it's Yankees against Cleveland, and hopefully it'll be the White Sox against Boston. Thank you, Tony La Russa, Don Baylor. I'm Len Berman at Yankee Stadium. Now for some other viewpoints, let's go to Phil Stone at Tiger Stadium in Detroit.
Thank you very much, Len Berman. Certainly one of the overriding questions from the players I have talked to all week long is just how sincere is the commissioner in terms of the players' plight. Standing beside me from the world champion Tigers, Darrell Evans, and from the Milwaukee Brewers, Paul Molitor. Darrell, your opinion, is the commissioner sincere?
Oh, I certainly hope so. I think that anytime you get things talking and some help from anybody, any suggestion that'll get something done, the bottom line is to get this thing over with and continue to play baseball. And any help you can get, hopefully something good will come out of it.
Paul, as far as your ball club goes, do you feel the commissioner is sincere?
Well, I feel that he is. You know, the commissioner has shown such a total concern with the overall well-being of the game that I just feel that he's trying to get something constructive on the table that both sides can work with. And if he can help in any means whatsoever, it's got to be a plus for the game.
In terms of the fans, as opposed to 1981 when you all walked out, the fan support this year as opposed to 4 years ago, Darrell?
Well, I think they're trying to understand a lot more. It seems like most of the letters I get, certainly I get a few that aren't very complimentary, but most of them are either have suggestions or just a sense of frustration that they would just to do anything to get this over with. And of course, we're in the same kind of spot. So, you know, they've been a lot kinder, and they have tried to see both sides this year. And I think that's a big difference from 4 years ago.
All the letters you've received have been a little more vehement.
Well, I think, you know, from the people that I've heard from, you know, a lot of them have just expressed concern. They don't understand how players making these type of dollars can possibly walk from the game. But like Darrell said, we just try to keep them informed that there's more at stake than just the salaries themselves. And we have to maintain some of the rights that we have fought for over the last 15 or 20 years.
One final question, both of you. Will there or will there not be a strike come Tuesday?
Well, we'll just have to sit and wait. I think we're all keeping our fingers crossed and very concerned and trying to keep up with everything that we can. So I hope that Tuesday comes along and we're going to continue to play baseball.
I remain optimistic as well. Let's get this thing settled.
All right, thank you very much, Paul Molitor and Darrell Evans. Back to you in New York, Bill McAtee.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. The negotiations today are scheduled to begin at 2 o'clock Eastern Time here in New York. And one quick note. One criticism of Peter Ueberroth's predecessor, Bowie Kuhn, was that 4 years ago, Kuhn did not get involved in the negotiations. There was, of course, a strike. Ueberroth making an effort to rekindle the fires of negotiations with his proposals 2 days ago, apparently learned from Kuhn's mistake. And we'll be back to talk about the game on the field right after this. The talk of a strike and the possibility that the season may end on Tuesday, games now take on an even greater significance. Last night in St. Louis, the Cardinals beat Philadelphia to increase their lead over the Mets in the National League East.
The Phillies had jumped out to a 1-0 lead until the 7th. With 2 out, that single by Ozzie Smith drives home Terry Pendleton. Then Glenn Wilson, trying to nail Andy Van Slyke at third, throws the ball away. That allows Van Slyke to score the go-ahead run, and the Cardinals led it 2-1. And there was more to come. Pitcher John Tudor with a pop-up. But Luis Aguirre bumps into Juan Samuel. The ball falls. Ozzie Smith scores. The Cardinals go on to win 3-2, leading the Mets by 2.5. Meanwhile, California remains 2 games up in the West against the Twins in the 6th. Brian Downing with his 11th home run of the year. The Angels beat Minnesota 3-1. In Kansas City, Lonnie Smith with this bases-loaded single in the 10th, and the Royals win 4-3. On a full moon evening, a strange play at Yankee Stadium in the 7th. Ricky Henderson launches a shot deep into center field with men on first and second. Bobby Meacham had returned to second, making sure the ball wasn't caught. After Meacham slipped, Dale Barrow was only a few feet away. The throw to the plate in plenty of time to get Meacham, and Carlton Fisk also tags out Barrow. A costly mistake because in the 11th, with 2 out, Luis Salazar tops a grounder to first. And while Rich Bordy struggles to field the ball, Ozzie Guillen scores from second, and the White Sox win it 6-5.
And speaking of the Yankees White Sox, there is great excitement here in New York about Tom Seaver's attempt for his 300th career victory tomorrow afternoon. Tom is with Joe Garziola right now at a Yankee Stadium. Gentlemen?
Thanks, Bill. Well, tomorrow, Tom, you go for number 300, and everybody seems to zero in like that's the end of it. How do you feel about it?
Obviously it's a very important part of my career, but it is a stop as far as I'm concerned, Joe. And the press, they focus on that number, and I understand that. But if I feel I'm going to win 300, but as soon as I win 300, I'm going to be working on 301 too.
When did it become inevitable that you were going to get to 300?
I really felt that I had a good chance of winning 300 about halfway through the season last year, and I knew I was throwing the ball well, and I thought the 300 really was a possibility.
300's a high. What was the lowest part of your career, the real valley?
No question, 1982, when I hurt my arm in Cincinnati. I was 5-13, and earned run average over 5, and it was really the first time in my career I ever was hurt, and I didn't know if I'd ever pitch again. But I rehabbed and came back and been throwing well the last 3 years.
How different are you now than when you first came up?
A lot different. Well, when I first came up, maybe not that much different. I was sinker slider when I came up, and then I developed into be a power pitcher in the middle part of my career. But now I change speeds, move the ball around. The important thing is control and movement on the baseball. That's what the things that I concentrate most on.
If you were to make a blueprint for a 20-game winner, what would you take from Tom Seaver?
Well, you have to have, I think, the mechanics of it. You have to understand the mechanics of pitching. But I think you would have to have, most importantly, the qualities that I feel that I have, that I've gotten from my father. Probably the biggest aspects are the discipline, the concentration, and the hard work. Those 3 things I got from my dad.
How did you get them from your father?
Well, he was an outstanding athlete himself. He was a fine amateur golfer in the Bobby Jones era, and I watch him. My description of it, I pitch like my father played golf. It's not the other way around. He didn't play golf the way that I pitch. I pitched the way that he played golf his entire career.
He's here today, and he's going to be watching you tomorrow. And
I imagine he'll be here tomorrow, yeah.
Tom, congratulations.
Thank you, Joe. Thanks.
Okay, Bill, back to you.
All right, Joe, thank you very much. It is ironic as Tom goes for his 300th win. He does it in New York, where he made his name with the Mets. Now he'll go for number 300 against the Crosstown rival Yankees. We'll be back.
It'll work on your dandruff.
Yeah, but I'm afraid it won't leave my hair the way I like it.
Hey, this is great stuff.
Today's Head & Shoulders.
It's all I use.
Okay.
Tough dandruff protection that works only on your scalp, not your hair. Gentle conditioners go there.
Tough on dandruff, right?
But great on hair.
Today's Head & Shoulders. Dandruff care that's good for your hair.
Day's looking new and bright, and you're gonna start it right. Folger's starting to brew, the aroma's calling you. The best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup.
Mornings are brighter with Mountain Grown Folgers because Mountain Grown coffee has more enticing aroma than any other kind.
The best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup.
Meet the men behind the microphones on a special NBC Sports World, August 11th.
Bill McAtee back now in New York, and before we send you out to the ballpark, we want to take a look at some of the memorable moments from the past week. And we'll start with lightning at Fulton County Stadium that may have been a sign about the strike.
Lightning, perhaps reflecting a feeling from higher authority. Meanwhile, lightning struck on the base paths in Chicago as Vince Coleman, along with Willie McGee, pulled off the first double-double steal in baseball history. After the Cubs blew the rundown, Coleman came home, picking up stolen bases number 73 and 74 on the play. The rain was purple in Philadelphia. The Philly fanatic with his personal tribute to Prince, who we should note is slightly shorter and not usually green. And as the fanatic thundered off with John Wackenfuss, the thunderous noise that disturbed Jack Morris Tuesday in Detroit was a Learjet that came dangerously close to Tiger Stadium. Rick Dempsey came a little too close to umpire Al Clark, hitting Clark's arm with the throw back to the mound. Not a great week for Rick and umpires, tripping over Joe Brinkman in a less than gracious exit. And after swinging to protect the runner, Keith Hernandez produced some high pressure after being called out for leaving the batter's box. And in a rarity in that same game, a routine grounder hit umpire Joe West. The ball is therefore dead and all runners are safe.